Here we go. I am Steve Dangle, and this is the final episode of 70 in 7, where we break apart the Leafs' 70-game season so far, and we recap the whole thing. This is episode 7, so if it's the first one you've watched, you've missed 6 episodes. But don't worry, they're right here on the internet where I left them. In this video, we're covering the Leafs games 61 through 70, and they were eventful. That's one word for it! Let's get to work. First of all, where were we? Games 31 to 40 were fantastic. The Leafs were one of the hottest teams in the league. Games 41 to 50, that continued for a few games, and then the Leafs plummeted. They were awful. In the previous segment of games, the Leafs came out of it after the All-Star break, strung together 3 straight wins, and then fell into some bad habits again. Defensive breakdowns, allowing goals in the first 2 minutes of almost every period. Frederik Andersen got hurt, came back, and did not look good, and Michael Hutchinson was so bad that the Leafs had to go out and get Jack Campbell. And to make matters worse, the Leafs just had an embarrassing loss at the hands of the Buffalo Sabres in Buffalo in Game 60. But they have a shot at redemption against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and in this one, rare opportunity, the Penguins don't have Malkin. And would you believe it? The Penguins are up 2-0 after 1. Are you kidding? While writing notes for this video series, I was talking to someone. They were like, that was the game where Agazzino scored. Remember that nobody? And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. Turns out that's not even the guy's name. It's Anthony Angelo getting his first. They were down 5-0, barely halfway through regulation. Matthews and Clifford scored. Who bloody cares? The Leafs lose, and the Penguins score 5 goals on just 24 shots. Having said all this, having said, I wish they had this, I wish they had that, at the end of the day, the answer at the moment has to be in the room. It's got to be in the room. You weren't this bad 2 weeks ago. What's going on? What are you going to do to figure it out? Are you going to focus on what it takes to be great? Are you going to leave some... You got some Instagram comments in you there? I mean, you're rich and famous either way, right? Will this group fold or find it? They're in a playoff spot right now. Fold or find it. Again, the Leafs got a shot at redemption. This one, Game 62, at home against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Alright, so it's the rematch. And it was almost exactly what the previous game was supposed to be. Bouncing back from a bad loss with a tidy performance. This game was one of the Leafs' most tidy of the season. 0-0 after 1, but Jake Muzzin with a bomb to open things up. William Nylander, power play marker, 2-0. Kasperi Kapanen, who the Leafs had previously suspended, back in the lineup and on his best behavior on a breakaway goal, making it 3-0. And this was the game where Patrick Hornquist was in Rasmus Sandin's kitchen all night. Kapanen finally had enough of that. Jared McCann had enough of that, and Kapanen and McCann fought. Remember, that's when everyone was like, oh, Kyle Clifford rubbing off on Kapanen. And shout out to Alexander Kerfoot, the sick pass on the breakaway. Zach Hyman, continuing his hot streak, makes it 4-0. Frederik Andersen, the 24-save shutout. Leafs win. Whew. And that was the last NHL game I went to. Ever, it feels like. So, the Leafs had a bad loss against the Buffalo Sabres. A bad loss against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Embarrassing even. What are you doing? Are you even trying even? And they respond with their tightest performance of the season yet. How would they respond in Game 63? Do you know what Game 63 was? The Carolina Hurricanes are in town. James Reimer starting a net for the Hurricanes. He gets hurt early. Peter Mrazek has to go in. The Hurricanes scored 3 goals in the second period. They're up 3-1. Puck in the Hurricane zone. Peter Mrazek way out of his neck to play it. Kyle Clifford, regardless of what you think, whether he should have done it, it didn't matter. It was Mrazek's fault. Who cares? Clifford steamrolls him. Mrazek cannot continue the game. The Hurricanes are out of goalies. Enter the emergency backup goaltender, the E-Bug, David Ayres. Dude, this guy hasn't played in years. He's my cousin's beer league goalie. Oh my God. And of course there was a goal right away. For the Hurricanes, Teuvo Teravainen makes it 4-1! John Tavares would end up scoring on David Ayres and celebrated, and some people chirp him for it, but someone had to show life on this team. Pierre Engvall scores to bring the Leafs within 1, and that would be Engvall's first goal in a long time, and coincidentally his last goal of the season. So wait a second, David Ayres came into the game when it was 3-1, it is now 4-3. Oh my God, if the Leafs lose this game, David Ayres gets the win. But don't worry, the dam is already cracking. It's ready to break. The Leafs have already scored 2 goals on them, and they have the entire third period. Oh, this is going to be a cakewalk. Foegele scores 53 seconds into the period. Is this thing on? Nikash, 4 minutes in, the Leafs are down 6-3. The Leafs only muster 7 shots on goal in the third period. And with that, the Leafs lose to a 42-year-old Zamboni driver who works for them. Toronto Maple Leafs lost an actual National Hockey League game to a 42-year-old Zamboni driver who works for them. Forget Game 7 in 2013, in 2018, in 2019. Wow, they get humiliated a lot. Well, forget all of them. They just lost to a 42-year-old Zamboni driver who works for the team. I should clarify, because I had my big screamy video over 500,000 views, and people are like, he's not just a Zamboni driver, he's like Iceman. Listen, I didn't put a ton of research into that. I was a little upset. And people are like, well, he doesn't actually work for the Leafs, he actually works for the Marlies. I'm like, is that better? The worst part about it is David Ayres is like a genuinely wonderful man. Like, can't he be a jerk? So is that the low point of the Leaf season? I don't know, you tell me. Is losing to an emergency backup who then celebrates the win on Stephen Colbert embarrassing? In retrospect, though, thank goodness the Leafs didn't win that game. Thank goodness. No, you listen to me. Because as Elliot Friedman said after the fact, general managers were texting him. They were furious that an employee who is friendly with the Leafs organization, like he takes practice shots from these guys on occasion, he's playing against them in an actual NHL game that counts. This cannot count. By the end of the game, they were laughing. Can you imagine if the Leafs come back from a 3-goal deficit and win that game, stealing 2 points in a valuable playoff race? How do you feel if you're the Florida Panthers, who were right there? That's one thing. But another hilarious thing about all this is that was the Leafs' final game before the trade deadline! Yeah, you like it here? You want to play here? Then beat the E-Bug! And the Leafs may or may not have had plans for the trade deadline. Tyson Barrie's name was still in rumors. Maybe they're going to acquire a big defenseman, a big forward. Kyle Dubas and Leafs management saw this game against the Carolina Hurricanes at the last game before the trade deadline, including a few embarrassing losses before that, and said, nuts to that. They made a couple small moves. They had Robin Lehner for a hot minute, but it was just so that they could retain some salary in a 3-way deal. Now he's on the Vegas Golden Knights. The Leafs got a 5th rounder out of it. And the Leafs traded Michael Hutchinson to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for a guy who they used to have, Calle Rosen, who was in the Tyson Barrie-Nazem Kadri swap in the summer. The Leafs' first game after the David Ayres game and the trade deadline ended up being a gutsy win, but just another awful one. Kucherov puts the Lightning up 1-0. Jake Muzzin ties it. John Tavares' power play goal. The Leafs are up 2-1 after 1. Patrick Maroon ties it 2-2. John Tavares once again gives the Leafs the lead back 3-2. This was the game where William Nylander scored that nifty little between the legs goal, 4-2. Yanni Gourde scores to make it 4-3, but the Leafs hold on and win in Tampa. This was a big one. I know that I have yelled straight up that this team sucks this season. Once definitely under Babcock, and then he was promptly fired. And a couple times I've wondered it under Keefe. Because how many times can you watch this team do the same thing over and over again? How many times can you watch this team that is capable of more do less before you come to the conclusion that maybe they're just bad? That has been the frustration with this team. They are capable of more. They show us all the time. This game against Tampa wasn't an anomaly. They've done it a bunch of times. Tidy wins against cup contenders. Part of the reason they had such a hard time holding on, Travis Dermott had to play like 9 minutes of the third period, and the reason he had to do that, Jake Muzzin injured. So after the Leafs don't make a splash at the trade deadline, they lose Jake Muzzin for a month. When that's announced, Kyle Dubas tweets out the Chinese farmer story. It's very interesting. I highly recommend you look it up yourself. Basically, the bad things in life may not always be what they seem, or even a bad thing. Hell of a positive way to look at it. I wonder what Calle Rosen said when he got called up. Like, thanks, Kyle, I saw the tweet. Game 65 against the Florida Panthers. Now listen, I don't care if you responded to the David Ayres game with a win over the Tampa Bay Lightning, and I don't care if Jake Muzzin is out of the lineup along with Morgan Riley. It's the Florida Panthers again, and if you don't beat them, there's going to be a problem. 2 minutes and 23 seconds into the game, the Florida Panthers score. Who did it? Mark Pysyk, the biggest house in Oshawa, belongs to my therapist. Zach Hyman ties it, but Hoffman and Achari make it 3-1 in the first. But Kasperi Kapanen and who else? Austin Matthews tie the game up at 3 before first intermission. No goals in the second period. William Nylander bangs in a goal off a scramble in the third. Justin Hall with the empty netter. The Leafs actually pull off a regulation win against the Florida Panthers. Huge. Game 66, a home game against the Vancouver Canucks. Leafs score early, Canucks tie it early. It's a 1-1 game less than 6 minutes in. This was the game where Austin Matthews scored a goal on Thatcher Demko with like the vanishing puck. Like even watching it over and over again, you're like, where did it beat him? But Tanner Pearson evens it up 2-2 after 1. No goals in the second, and we begin the third not knowing who's gonna win the game, who's gonna break this thing open, and oh my god, Martin Marinchin's coming in with speed. Oh my god! Martin Marinchin rings it off the post to the shock of everybody and bangs in his own rebound. Even he looks surprised on the replay, and that would end up being the game-winning goal. So, with 3 straight wins after the David Ayres game, the Leafs head out on the California road trip. The Ducks, the Kings, the Sharks, they've all been garbage this season. You could pick up 6 points. And the Leafs picked up 1. Marner with a sneaky, wicked backhand goal against the San Jose Sharks, but the Leafs fall 5-2, getting outshot 38-27 in the process. Game 68 against the Kings, double shutouts. Overtime solves nothing. We go to the shootout, and the Kings win there, so Frederik Andersen getting the shutout and losing. Game 69, not so nice against the Anaheim Ducks. Carter Rowney scoring, again, just 3 minutes, 17 seconds in. They got to put a lid on that problem, man. Adam Henrique puts the Ducks up 2-0 about halfway through regulation, and William Nylander scoring to stave off the back-to-back shutout with 3 minutes to go in regulation. But that's as good as the Leafs do. They lose that one too. And despite getting Cody Ceci back in that game, they were looking to get anybody back in that game. The Leafs recover from the David Ayres loss only to drop 3 straight in California. 3 teams well out of the playoff hunt. Game 70, March 10th, 2020. The Leafs take on the Tampa Bay Lightning at home. There's actually reason for hope, because even though they had a terrible California road trip, yeah, they just got Cody Ceci back, they also got back Morgan Rielly in this one, playing in his first NHL game in about 2 months. No, the Leafs didn't make any additions at the deadline, but that's a hell of a pickup. William Nylander scores a power play goal just 6 seconds into the power play to give the Leafs a 1-0 lead in the first. Andre Palat ties it in the second, and it's a bit of a stalemate, but then Mitch Marner over to Austin Matthews for a blast, his 47th of the season, and the final goal of the Leafs season for many, many months. Boom! Right back on track. I told you. You feel better? What if the Leafs finally win the cup, but because of COVID-19, it's in front of an empty building and there's no parade? Okay, see, that's why he's never getting his own video. Oh, you piece of crap! You promised! The next day, it would be announced that Utah Jazz player Rudy Gobert had contracted COVID-19. The NBA shut down later that night. And only a few hours later, but the next day, March 12th, my birthday, the NHL season was postponed. No game last night, so how can we do victory puppies? In times like these, people need victory puppies, don't they, boys? Don't they? You don't care? You just want cookies? Everyone look at the adorable dogs! Everything's fine! I love you, boys. It's gonna be okay, alright? It's gonna be okay. The National Hockey League has postponed their season for the time being, just like the NBA, just like MLS, just like MLB, just like basically everything. And the things that are not closed yet will probably be closed by the time I'm done shooting this video or editing this video or uploading this video. I just looked down at my phone when I started. The University of Toronto and York University just closed their classes. Oh, and just like that, there goes the Masters. Usually I make a video after every Leafs game, and there wasn't a Leafs game yesterday on account of the league shutdown. There was almost a Leafs game. It was wild how close to game time. It wasn't until about 5 or 6 hours before game time that they actually announced that the season was being postponed. The number one question yesterday, and it just seems like it's not an important question anymore. I don't see as many people asking it. You know, will they award the Stanley Cup? What are they going to do? What are the playoffs going to look like? What are the standings going to look like? Nobody seems to know. Nobody knows. No one could know yet. This is happening so rapidly, so ridiculously fast. Yesterday afternoon at about 3 in the afternoon, I earnestly asked a producer at Sportsnet if I was there the previous night, because I didn't remember. That's how fast everything was moving. Thursday, March 12th was the longest week ever. Like, isn't that what it felt like? And what's happened since? Where do I start? Well, you already know it was announced recently that in the process of preparing for this comeback of sorts in the summer, Austin Matthews had contracted COVID-19. He has since recovered. The NHL developed a return-to-play system that sees 24 teams making the playoffs. Really, it's only 4 teams from each conference being guaranteed a playoff spot. Everyone else has to play in a best-of-5 series. The Leafs' opponents, the Columbus Blue Jackets. And now that you're all caught up, that's who they're about to play. They also have a preseason warm-up game against the Montreal Canadiens. And finally, after 5 long months, I can't recap anything else until it happens. And it's about to happen. And I can't wait. So leave a comment in the comment section down below. I hope you like this series. Let me know what you thought about this series. And that is it for this series. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell your friends. Hockey's back.